Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special We Have a Cave Troll. This is, I think, our second annual expansion pack kickoff cave troll. Last year we kicked off Legacy of Morgoth with this stream, and
We
this year we're
did.
kicking off Kingdoms of Harad.
Wait, does that mean that this is like our anniversary?
It could be. I think we're a couple weeks off. I think it was the first
Oh
week of
no, yeah.
September last
Oh
year
yeah, it was. So this is
that
like this is like our anniversary version of this. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, so
it's exciting.
new year, new expansion, new level bump, new region, new zones, new lots of new mount. Man, there's a lot going on.
There is. So, welcome everyone to this kickoff where we talk a little bit about what we're working on, what we're doing, what we're making, the excitement that is Kingdoms of Harad. As you can see in the background, we have right here one of the hubs for the region of Idigal. This is Ahaba, um, kind of your little quintessential oasis hidden amongst the hills of Idigal. So I'm not really sure what direction we should go as far as how we kick things off here and how we start talking about things. Last Cave Troll, we talked a little bit about the regions, and we gave a name to the four regions.
We did.
Uh,
We
um,
did. We were able to give the names of the four regions. Now we can go on and talk about, well, the four zones and which one is it? Zone, region, whatever the hierarchy is. Now we can talk about Marjala
mhm.
as being the
Yep.
main region itself, right?
So it's always helpful for us to kind of bundle areas of landscape together in larger like territory names. And it's weird because both internally we have like the same name for something used a few different times. So it's like the idea of what an area is versus a region versus a territory. Those are all they all mean something different in data than when we are just casually talking about a space. Um, but for the context of what we're talking about here, Murgala is
Marjala,
the
Marjala,
Jala
Marjala.
is the territory. So it is the biggest bucket that encompasses all of the regions, Adagim, Kijan, Ansharu, and Idigal within it. And Marjala is the Ridge of Plenty. Those of you that have spent plenty of time looking at the maps of Harad will notice and remember that name, as well as some of the names that we've talked about now as far as our areas go. Though things have changed a little bit, what we had originally put on the maps has morphed, and new names have come in, and old names have gone out. That's part of the fun of building what we're building.
Oh yeah. There's a. We were just commenting off right before we started, like how much new art has come in for this particular expansion, and there's just so much that we've been seeing and expanding in terms of the cultural assets that are being added and how different they really look overall compared to where we started with Umbar, where we kind of grew with Shigana, and now here in Murjala, there's three different really distinct cultural forces at play
Mm-hmm.
in this particular territory right now, and it's just amazing how much art has actually been produced here. And there's it seems like every every day it seems like we're getting more and more at this point. It's pretty crazy.
I hope not, because I'm kind of tired of making housing items for everyone.
Well, I mean, you do go a little overboard when you make the housing items.
It's only, I think the current count is like 515 or something. Not all are going to be released as part of the expansion pack, but
Yeah.
that kind of is an indication of just how much art that we've had created for this. Um, I think one of the things you're talking about, how there are all of these different cultures, and how we've got all of these assets to represent them. It's something that's kind of similar to what we've done in Gondor, honestly, where you have the main look of Gondor, like the Numenorian structures, and then we
Mhm.
have variations on those structures that are still like related, but kind of show a different spin on what that culture did in those spaces. So you have like
Mhm.
Minas Tirith, and you have Dol Amroth, and you have Pelargir, and those all like have the same core visual language, but they're all kind of used a little bit differently. And even when you go further out into like Amphalos and how the those structures are represented there a little bit differently, and with um, Corsairs of Umbar, Legacy of Morgoth, Kingdoms of Harad, we have a whole new series of related but slightly varied cultures. So you'll see familiar forms, but represented in whether it's different colors, different patterns, tile work, like those sorts of things, to give each one its own little stuff, a little something special. And then on top of that, you have the kind of more Morgothian brutalist
Yep. Yeah.
ruins that we kind of call the Shigani ruins, that kind of weave through everything else.
Oh yeah, and now we've got the the influence that is there's still a lot of influence from Sauron in this area of the world, even though he wasn't known as Sauron down here uh, at the outset, right? He's more the cult of Barakush and the all-seeing eye, and those were present in those first areas of Umbar, but now it's even more, and you get to see like how those fixtures and those elements were drawn into um, the Ordokai and the Harad, well, which the North calls Harad, right? And the here in the Southlands, where they actually call themselves by I think the Ordokai or the Shagani or the Zajani or whichever variations
Yep.
and cultural identities they have, and how those are influenced too. It's kind of neat to see, how we're using a lot of the art to show off the difference in those particular pieces that we're able to withstand or not fully crumble under the weight, or fall completely to their knees against Sauron, and those that tried to continue that struggle. It's
It.
I mean, and let's be honest, like Adagim is such a departure from like
Mhm.
things we have done in the past. It's straight out of a horror novel, kind of.
Well,
It's
so
creepy.
like you're talking about how we have these cultural differences amongst like the habited spaces,
Mm,
and similarly, both kind of like what we did with Legacy of Morgoth, like we have these four regions that I think Adagim stands out from all of them, but the intention is to have these four regions be different in feel enough from each other, but still feel like they're connected with through lines, both in terms of narrative and how we use our assets through here. You'll have, I for me, like the regions I built for this expansion pack kind of like are sort of transitional spaces because you're moving from Imhular into Adagim, so we have to
mm.
blend those regions together and make them feel like the transition feels good. And then from Adagim you go to Kijan, which again is another like blending. And then we've got, I built Ansharu, and that is like we've got Idigal on one side and Kijan on another, and Kudzagin and Imular to the north. And so it's like, how do you combine all of those things together and make it feel like it's a natural transition between spaces, while also still giving each region its own character and personality?
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be interesting. Like it's not that it's going to be. It's going to be. I think players are going to appreciate what they're seeing as they're passing through each of the different zones, because they are so different and unique, and and they really do each tell their own stories.
Hmm.
while having, you know, a couple of through lines through them while we wrap up the main epic, and we actually kind of, you know, also pay attention to the subplot that's been happening for the past couple of years through Legacy of Morgoth. So it's I'm very interested to see how this one all wraps up, and I'm really excited for, you know, what's to come. I just realized that just the other day when I was looking at the date and I said, "Oh my God, it's already September," and then I said, "Oh, it's
Hmm.
worse than that. It's already the end of September. I have to write the next quarterly update, which has to be out sometime in October." So I'll be doing that too, and kind of going into you know, some of the reasons why, you know, the release is going to be a little bit later. Um, what were kind of some of the driving forces behind that, and you know, I think we can be honest and touch on one of them, that performance is one of those things that we're really kind of focusing on right now, and we're trying to address more
Hmm.
and more, because it hasn't been exactly, you know, the transition that we really wanted from the 32 bits to the 64 bits, and we're constantly trying now to fix exactly what we can identify and continue to address. And that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we're taking the time to put in new practices uh, and building this the way we should be for the future, to give it as much of the performance overhaul that we really need to have for this as we continue to build the game out. And that's you know, that's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but it's one of the things that we are looking at as something that's important to us, and making sure that we're getting all of these things done the way that we do. We won't go into a lot of the back end stuff that we've been dealing with at the same time, because that is not really interesting to players. But
Hmm.
you know, it is something that we've been dealing with.
You never know though that talking about the nitty gritty might scratch the itch for some people on this stream.
Yeah, it might get us in trouble too. I don't know. Like, it just, but
Shall
I mean,
we
there's a lot going on, right?
should we start taking a look at some of the questions
Yeah,
before we
let's take a look
ramble
at
on
questions.
again? So
We will
Fusil
ramble. We'll
says,
ramble anyways. Come on.
well, yeah. Fusil says, is the art all done in house or is some also outsourced? I'm pretty sure everything that we've done for the expansion pack is all in house.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
We will occasionally leverage outsource for kind of like specialty things or things that might come up that our team itself does not have the time to actually like create. Um, but generally, I think the by and large, the vast majority of everything that we produce as far as art goes is done in house.
Yeah, I can't think of anything right now that is going to be part of the release and all of the content aspects that was done elsewhere. Like, everything else, I think, has been done in house. Yeah, yeah. It's like we were saying at the outset, that the how prolific the art team has been for this particular release is kind of staggering. The sheer amount of new materials that they've actually given us is pretty impressive. I know that I've been
So
putting
many
together,
toys.
yeah, I've been putting together so many just random appearances for the past 2 weeks now, just trying to get all that done. And yeah, it's been pretty impressive how much they've been able
Our
to do.
our world artist basically reinvented the asset set for the Shigani brutalist Morgothi structures. So it's just like so many new things for us to and unfortunately like we're not going to be able to really take advantage of the assets he made for this expansion pack because like we had already built a bunch of spaces kind of early on, but there's just like so many toys. So many toys to play with.
Mm. Some of the stuff that
uh,
I saw him get in this week, I was floored by. Like, the stylistic choices are just,
mhm.
they're fantastic. It's beautiful.
The Zajani stuff looks
There's the
amazing.
Johnny stuff is amazing.
The library set, I
Yes.
absolutely love the library set, and
Yep.
most of it is all going to be housing items. so people can build their own libraries, which is great. Um,
Yep. Eventually. Eventually.
so Huisuf says, do you intend to keep the same system of 2 expansions in the same level cap as with Umbar Morgoth?
That's a really good question. So it depends on who you ask. Uh, if you ask Severlin, he would like us to move to a level bump faster. We are stretched to get this done as quickly as we do every year, and we do it, and it's entirely possible. But bumping levels as often as we have is tougher. From the system side of things, we consistently kind of have to refactor everything that's being done from a statistical standpoint. And the reason that we kind of shifted to that model of one on, one off is because of how difficult it really is to update those statistical values over time. And what we're running into more often is as the health goes up on monsters and on players, the display gets harder and harder. So we have to come up with the solutions for that. So whether that's moving to, display matrix that shows XK instead of the full value of 100,000, right? Or a million or a billion, or God forbid we get to trillions, right? Like that's the thing that we're kind of looking at. It's like how do we handle that? How do we handle the curves and everything and make sure that everything stays within a balanced range? So the difficulty of going to a full, level bump every expansion every year is one that we're still entertaining, but is more difficult to do. So I can't say for certain that we'll stick with the Umbar Legacy of Morgoth kind of cadence, but it's entirely possible. And,
I mean, that's
we,
kind
we,
of
we
been
do
the
know what we're doing
cadence.
next year too. It has since
Yeah,
about Gundabad, right?
like every other year, it kind of shook out to be a level bump of some sort. We experimented a little bit with like a couple of updates that were like 5 level bumps. I think where Dragons Dwell did that. Um, so like there was a little experimentation there, but it does feel like our cadence right now is every other year, and who knows if that'll change.
Yeah, we don't know. Like it's one of those things that we're constantly having conversations about it. There are some things that we want to make adjustments to, that are pain points for players, um, and we've got some plans for that for the next year. I mean, what we're trying to do right now is identify beneficial changes that we can make to the game for the player base, and I mean kinship the kinship work that we started this year is good. And I don't know if were you in my meeting on Friday where I showed off the calendar for the first time?
No,
No.
but I
Oh,
was in
well.
a cave troll stream a couple times ago where I accidentally dropped that tidbit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's ready and it looks fantastic, and it's in Palantir's hands now, and you can add all sorts of events to it, and it looks really cool. And that's a step in what we're trying to build out for the kinship thing, and that's like the next the next aspect of that will be slowly coming online. But I guess I'm kind of wandering from where we started here. But the goal really is to continue to provide things that are entertaining to you, the players, and whether that means, because we know, I'm looking at it in the chat, right? There's a group of players that's like, I want a level bump every year. There's players that are like, I never want a level bump again. There's a whole bunch there's a whole bunch of different disparate thoughts around it, and there's a lot of those challenges internally too as to what we really should or want to do moving forward. But some of those things are just restrictive in the fact that we do need to make some hard systemic changes before we can just say we're going to keep increasing the level all the time, or whatever that may be, right? We do have to make some some decisions and some engineering updates to handle some of what we are going to be doing for the future.
Temamir says, I have a little bit more of a general question. I hoped a bit that the update would feature a region between south of Ithilien and Umbar. Is that region on the horizon? When we'll be able to travel from Gondor to Umbar without porting or having to do the epic quest in King's Gondor? That region is not part of this expansion pack. It's not something that I think is on our immediate radar. In large part because what would be going on in there isn't necessarily specifically related to the stories we're telling, right? Like the new regions we create go where the story takes us, and the story isn't taking us north towards Gondor. As far as when that region will happen, that is a sometime maybe kind of thing. I'm always a proponent for fill in the gap regions. And that region would be a prime. Those areas, I think there's probably like 2 regions worth of space, at least, in that area, and that would be an opportunity for that. Or if there was a strong narrative reason for us to go there as part of a non-fill in the gaps thing. But for right now, it's not on our immediate radar.
No, and sorry, in terms of will we get there? Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the goal over the next 20 years is to fill out as much of the world as we possibly can. And one of the things that we are taking a very hard look at right now is, we are wrapping up a 3-year-long epic story. It's actually a little bit longer, right? With the Songs of Waves and Wind. And with that, there will come a moment of resolution that for both the players and frankly for us as designers. Made of Lions has poured his heart and soul into this over the past few years, and bringing this to its culmination is no small or easy feat. And when this is completed, there is going to be at least a beat for us to breathe. And while we do have tentative plans for what we're doing next year, we're not actually, going into depth as to what we'll be addressing. But one of the things that we are, as we were saying, constantly assessing and trying to make better for players is the overall experience. And if I were to, to really kind of drill down on that, there are areas that we know need to be improved or that we know should be looked at again. So we're weighing options at this point to try to figure out exactly what the next steps are. And we'll have more on that, probably not that long after the expansion comes out. Probably early in next year that we'll start talking about everything that's going to be happening. But we know that we're here through a good portion of next year while we finish out the true story of the Kingdoms of Harad, and we close a chapter here. But yeah, there's the whole section between that you're asking about. Yeah, I would say there's definitely going to be a day where you'll be able to walk from the Shire all the way down to Zajan.
With teleports.
Yeah, or teleport. Yeah, with teleports. It's true. You won't be able to cross everything.
Perks asks, any updates coming to the virtue system?
None that I can discuss right now. The most important thing for us with the virtue system, let me be careful in the way that I say this. We understand how important the virtue system is to the players. We also understand it from a standpoint of the passive abilities that it grants and all of the other benefits that come along with having them. We also know how difficult it is to get through them. So we have a few ideas of how to address this. And there are plans to directly address this in 2026. So 2026, I'm not going to say is going to be the year of the virtue, because that's definitely the wrong way to couch it. But we will be doing something to address virtues in 2026. It is one of the highest priorities I have on my plate right now, alongside the plans for the future, which already extend into 2029 at this point. So,
Only that far?
I know. Well, actually, I do have 5 years, but I can't really count what 2030 is at this point because that's still far enough off that may change. So,
Schmooze asks. Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Schmooze asks how many 6 and 3-person instances are part of the expansion.
There's 1 3 and 2 6s, and then a raid.
I like our kind of return to the classic Lotro style of each region having like an end cap instance.
Me too. I wonder why. No. I mean,
just
that's where we started, right? That's where we started it all off. There was a capstone to each region that resolve. It didn't always resolve in there, but there was a story element to each of those pieces, so that you had something to do inside of the end of each of the zones. So I do like that.
Well, and it's and not to say that these instances or the Legacy of Morgoth ones like acted as a like encapsulation of the narrative for that region, but it was always kind of nice to, whether it's these regions or Lone Lands, North Downs, like the original games, to be able to be like, and this is the final challenge of the region before I move on.
Yep.
Eros216 says, how large are these areas compared to more recent entries? And I would say the regions that we're introducing are comparable with the size of the regions that we've been introducing over the last few years.
So when Matt says that, the content team is chirping in the back of my head. They're too big. They're too big.
It's okay to have unfilled spaces here and there.
Well, it is, but they're large. That's the one thing that I think is the most difficult, just given our team size, is that the world team is exceptionally good at building out beautiful vistas and beautiful landscape and a beautiful world, and it becomes very, very apparent very quickly when we start getting in there as on the content side and start saying, oh, I didn't envision this. And I think one of the things that we did this year was trying to layer, like when we were in those regions, I think worked a little bit better. We still ran into some problems, but we're getting better every year at handling how we do that. So we get a better understanding of how big the regions are going to be.
And as new people come in and old people move out, it's almost like a kind of soft reboot has to happen to kind of reassess what we've done before. How do we utilize spaces? How do people like just get into the spaces and figure out what the scale is? I think one of the things that is challenging in general is like we're all working in our tools, and when you're in World Builder, your sense of scale of a place is very different than when you're in client. Like you can kind of have a sense for how big something is when you're in World Builder, but you're also like, oh, look at the little tiny ant people below me as I'm like 50,000 feet up. And then when you're actually in client, that's when you get to see the actual scale of things. That's when you have that opportunity to kind of run around and see, oh, it actually takes me this long to get here, or this camp is actually closer than I thought it was. We had that. We ran into that with a camp in Ansharu, where we had done all of our planning. We were sitting down and we're like, okay, we're gonna put this camp here. That's like not too far from a major hub, but it's going to be right here. And then as our designer MVP was in there working on it, he's like, yeah, the story I'm telling, this camp is too close. This is too close to it based off of the story that I'm supposed to be telling in this camps or in this hub. Mm-hmm. So can we move it? And I think that's honestly like one of the few times where I've like been asked to move something further away to give more space for things.
Yeah, I mean the converse has happened. Obviously, like we even realized in the early parts of in the early parts out of the first major hub that players will hit here into out of game that we're going to be adding more because there's a very good chance that the distance is just too far from one hub to the other.
Mhm.
Not that that's going to end up being a problem. It's just that it's just oh yeah we kind of see that this has to be updated a little bit in order to fill in what we didn't realize was going to be so large.
Nanaris asks, "Does the end of Song of Waves and Wind mean the end of our time in Harad?" Which we touched on a little bit.
We
You know,
touched on it. I mean, I can say unequivocally, no, it does not. Like it does not touch on our time in Harad. Certainly not in the near future. And I will go as so far to say that it is certainly not the end of potential adventuring in Harad forever, because there's a very good chance that we will make a return here at some point, or we will stay here for longer, depending on which one you want to think I actually mean right now.
certain characters in the appendices have to make their way down here at some point.
This is true. This is true. We're still, middle aged. We're not old yet, so we still have another 20 years to tell those stories.
Thangdrum says, "Would you say there's been any unique challenges whilst building these upcoming regions, if not the transitions between the regions? And are you allowed to discuss which parts of the world helped inspire them, or is it more or less the same as the last two?" As far as challenges go, I think the biggest challenge for us has been figuring out how to reframe our thoughts around performance,
Mm.
and what is involved, and because like we when way back when the game first launched, the only real concern we had for performance was frame rate. That was what our tools were tuned towards. We had some high level like not even necessarily limitations, but recommendations from within our tools itself, like, oh, this is too much going on here, whatever. Um, and so like a lot of how we were building things, through the first 10, 15 years of the game was very much just like, oh, hey, frame rate isn't bad, no problem, no big deal. And some of that's because like we just didn't have the tools in place to help indicate to us like, oh, hey, frame rate might be fine, but the server is. Yeah.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and moving over to 64-bit servers have kind of forced us to start thinking more about what implications building has on the server in addition to client performance, and how we can visualize within our tools, and data analytics, like what what's causing issues, what might be solutions to those issues. We patched in something that we are hoping can help alleviate some of the server load and unload issues that have been kind of bogging down the servers a little bit since moving over to the 64-bit servers, by pushing a lot of things to client only, because there's stuff like bushes and frills that aren't physical to the players. They're just going to run right through them anyways, so the server doesn't need to know about those things. Only your client does. So yeah, I'd say that's probably been the big challenge that comes with us, and a lot of it's just like maturing as a development studio, maturing our tool sets, maturing as designers, as we think about those things in ways that we previously weren't asked to think about them.
Yeah, I think from no, I'm going to stick with what Matt said there because I think that has been the biggest challenge is just the technical hurdles that we've been running into recently and the things that we're discovering about the engine and other aspects that have been kind of slowing us down and making things a little more difficult.
Questing Dead asks, any word on more housing hooks coming in the future? I mean, when we add a new neighborhood, there will technically be more hooks added to the game. Um, right now, we're not in a place where we are really ready to introduce new, increase the number of housing hooks within, like premium houses and whatnot. There might be opportunities to add hook packs and whatnot to some of the original neighborhoods, but we need to build a hook pack system in order to make that happen. Lev Scotland says, what's the northern border of the new region? Will it be connected now or soon to other regions, other existing regions like South Ithilien and Minas Morgul?
We kind of went over that.
Yeah, I mean, our region, we're going south and we're going east. That's the direction we're going. So the northern borders of the new regions are the southern borders of the old regions.
That's a good way to put it. Shagana is the launching point.
Let's see. All right. Going down through the questions here. Are there any that... Oh, Hirok says, can't we push it to Bullroarer for testing?
We should probably go into that a little bit, huh?
Yeah. And I don't think this is going to answer their question specifically, but we have stuff to talk about with Bullroarer.
Well, it might. I mean, so one of the things that we want to ensure we do is get a fair period of time for Bullroarer here, and our plan is that the first Bullroarer is going to start the week of October 6th. Now, that's provided the stars align and everything happens the way that we are trying to get everything built out and ready. And what we're planning on doing is pushing out like a region first, then eventually an instance connected with a region, and then the next region, so on and so forth. So what we're trying to do is push these out in a manner that makes sense. Right now, the way that we're planning on things is Endgame would be the first one, and then we might be looking at either Ansharu. I think Ansharu is the second one. I know it seems kind of weird because Kijan is in the middle of them, but because there are two paths in, one coming in from Kudzagin into Ansharu, and the other one coming in from... I did say that right?
Yeah.
And the other one coming in from Imular into Endgame. That those two are, since they're entry points, it makes more sense for those to kind of go first. Then we'd introduce with Kijan at least one of the instances, then the second instance and the third instance, and then we would set up Bullroarers that are going to be for the raid and the raid only. This will answer a question that was already asked about whether or not the raid is already being worked on. The answer is yes, the raid is already being worked on. When I said earlier this year that everything was being planned for release with the expansion, that is still the intent. It's just that we'd want to make sure that when we roll out the instances in the raid with this, that we are doing the right thing and taking enough time for people to get to level cap before we unlock them, let people get through the gearing set that they really need to do to get from the instances before we unlock the raid. So that's why there's a cadence built into there for how everything will unlock over time. But yes, what we're planning on is Bullroarers, a full suite of them that will last from October into the beginning of November, before we actually go live.
And as always, the epic story, the Song of Waves of Wind, will not be on Bullroarer, just to keep the story a surprise.
Yeah, that's pretty much true for anything we do here. But yeah.
Since the summer raid was canceled, is there a reason why we're getting the number of instances that we're getting in the new expansion? We definitely want more things to run at Endgame. I mean, there's only so many people on our team to do so much work, unfortunately.
I don't quite know how to answer that one, because we do what is within the limit of our ability to get done. Right? We are not a massive developer house. So we don't have the luxury of pushing out, hundreds of these things, or many of these things in a given time frame.
Well, and I think too, like at the beginning of the year when we put the roadmap out, we had our ambitions set, and
we did.
And I think, and a lot of those ambitions were kind of predicated on, the changeover to 64-bit servers going fairly smoothly, character transfers going smoothly. And unfortunately, there are things that take resources away, like dealing with the lag and the challenges that came with that transition, that mean that certain other things can't happen
But
as we had
and there
originally
were
planned for.
yeah, and there were a couple of bonus things that were thrown in, right? With the opening of the dark worlds for transfer and whatnot. Like those things were not necessarily planned from the outset. I mean, there are things that are unfortunate, uh, unfortunate. I won't say victims, but that's kind of what they are of just what become the more pressing needs over the course of time. And really, that's what happened. Is it's great to have a plan, right? Everybody does until you get punched in the mouth, and that's kind of really what happens. Is that we end up we end up trying to right size something at the trying to right size at the beginning of the year, uh, putting our plan into action, and then as things start to not go the way that you expect them, it's all about how well you can respond and react, and that's why we end up with some of the changes that we do. And it's not always perfect, but we do our best.
Nanara says, you mentioned the fact that existing players who both want and don't want level bumps. I think the larger concern is attracting new players who would appear to be pretty roundly put off by Lotro's big numbers. What is SSG thinking about continuing to attract new players? Is that a priority? And if so, where does progression come into that priority for you guys? I think we with expansion packs we have the like retention product figured out fairly well. I think we definitely have more room for us to kind of explore the ideas of acquisition products, whether that is um, things like Before the Shadow or other things that we can introduce to help further bolster lower level gameplay. I'm always going to advocate for filling the gaps regions, which are great acquisition opportunities.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is that there are still things on our whiteboard that are not gone yet, like the whole notion of being able to quest uh, level down, like that's still out there.
Mhm.
It's one of the things we're looking at as something that we still want to do in the future. It's just a matter of where it fits on a roadmap and how we can actually get to do the work that we're trying to get done there.
Uh, Nargaril says, should we expect regular landscape releases spread out over next year, or will you stick to the recent pattern of just one big chunk of landscape with the expansion? I think that's something that we're still figuring out.
It is. There was a question in there, I think, Matt, that I saw about is there a new system uh, with this release? And I did want to touch on
Hmm.
one minor thing that we're putting in. So one of the things that we've recognized is that uh, endgame players, and this has come up a lot in the chat, uh, we do have. So if we sit down and we talk about what the Lotro player base is, it is one of the hardest. It is one of the hardest things to do is to nail down exactly what the Lotro player base is, because we have such a wide gamut of players that play our game. We do have a lot of people that play at the end game and just play raids. We have a lot of people who have never really gotten out, of the maybe even 80 levels right at this point. And when you think about the fact that that's now going to be doubled to 160, it might seem crazy that there are still people that are just sitting at the level 80 band or whatever. But we have a very wide spread of players across the entire game. One of the things that we do want to look at, and we are going to be um, putting in, is or at least we're working on right now, is a rotating set of quests that are driven by world events that are going to be set up for something that you can do on a daily basis. You'll be able to log in, see where these things are taking place. The rewards are much like the mission system, but these are all on landscape. They are set in group areas or with group targets. And they're going to, not all of them, but some of them are group targets, some of them are not. And some of them are built around crafting. So some are daily, some rotate across the course of the week, and they all have wrappers that are associated. There are wrappers that are associated with them inside of the region. This is more of a regional uh, world quest design that we're kind of working toward to provide more of that end game feel. and in-game targets for players to actually play through. So that's one of the new things that we're actually adding with this expansion.
All right. Let's see. I'm scrolling down through. I just got past the question that I think you just answered.
I'm not surprised. There have been a lot. It's been very active.
Should we expect more instances and raids during the life of Kingdoms of Harad expansion, or what we see and kind of what we're getting? I think the plan is
That's
to try to introduce more instances at this cap, whether or not they are set.
that is
Whether
the
or not
plan.
they are set at in Kingdoms of Harad, like that is to be
That
determined.
is the plan. That is
But I
definitely the
think
plan.
but I think you can fully expect that over the life of the 160 cap, there will be additional instances introduced over time.
Yep, that is the current plan. Is that there would be more instances and potentially a raid added at some point.
Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of repeat questions, which I'm glad. Hopefully, we're able to answer. There are some questions that we're not uh, able to answer
Yeah,
yet. Some questions that we're gonna like hold off on for the time being. Uh, all right. So, what has been? I know you've been floored by the art that we've been getting, but what has been your like favorite part so far? Just like looking at what's being built, um, and the stories that are being told. Like, what's really just like hitting it for you?
out of game. I love out of game. It's so dark. It's the story there is pretty cool. And the art definitely supports like the story that's being told and how it's a very grim zone, and I feel like players are going to be happy to get out of it. But I think the story that's being told there is one of profound loss, and I think it's really good.
It's
I think it's
giving
really
the Kinta a bit more time in the spotlight
good.
too,
Depth.
which
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It really is.
we had little pockets of them here and there with Legacy of Morgoth, and um, they were kind of this just they felt like they were kind of sequestered off in the corners of the maps that we had put them in, which was intentional. Um, and with Atagame, we're getting a chance to explore them as a culture a little bit more, and introduce their major hub basically in Atagame.
Yes, yes. Like it's the last vestige of what they have. It's a very it's a very somber place, but still a very beautiful place.
Nagari says, "Have any maps you can show us yet?" Well, as you can see in the background, we've got Idigal going on here. This is probably one of the nicer looking parts of Idigal. Next week starts the series of casual stroll streams where I will be taking you all through each region in order. I think the general plan, and because of the way we're doing Bullroarers and whatnot, like I'm going to be going in kind of progression order of the regions. That may not be the order in which they're available in Bullroarer. So Bullroarers for a region might hit before I do a preview. It all depends on how the timing and schedule for all of that turns out.
Yup.
But I'm excited to do those. I'm going to be exhausted after 5 weeks of streams, but I'm excited to get those rolling. Um,
I don't blame you for being tired at the end of that.
let's see, seeing if I can find any questions that are more specifically for. There's a lot of general questions. So if you feel like waxing game design, there Illadel says, "What is the design philosophy behind class balancing occurring on a semi-annual basis?"
Oh, that's actually a pretty good one. So one of the things that we've been so OnMM has been the one who has been handling a lot of those. Not that there's no discussion amongst the team for that. But really, the idea behind all of it is to try to de-homogenize the way that a lot of the classes have kind of all merged together into be, the catch-all for everything, and not sharing. That's the wrong way to say it. Sharing too much of the overlap for what they did inside of their roles. One of the problems that ended up happening with just the design of Lotro in general is that because there was no separation between the different types of, say, crowd control, it all kind of just became crowd control. And when you have as many classes as we do that have a measure of crowd control, and then some of the classes started to get a little bit of crowd control here and there, it meant that everybody had an exorbitant, I don't want to say an exorbitant, but more crowd control than they really should have had. And one of the things that we're trying to do is make it more clear as to who are what classes are the ones that are really meant to have that crowd control, and then bring parity between those classes in a way that they don't impede one another, and they allow each other to coexist inside of given group structures. So the design philosophy really is to come up with a better way to layer all of the different classes together without everything feeling very samey. And I think that's one of the things that has been very difficult, and one of the things that is going to continue to be very difficult because of how the game has been structured and how long it has gone on without a meaningful and whenever I say this, I get a lot of heat, and I'm going to get heat again for saying it. Without a meaningful culling of extraneous skills to put in more relevant and potent skills for the different classes. So there is a lot of skill bloat and a lot of samey kind of effects that exist across it because we don't have the game wasn't built with a really large swath of both vertical and horizontal advancement. So that's one of the problems that we're going to continue to have until we can address it. And a lot of that just comes down with time and the manpower and what we actually have available to us. But from a philosophy standpoint, it's to try to bring a measure of individualism to each of the classes and each of the different specializations that the classes do have, so that not everyone chooses the same path. Is to give them more options and opportunity to explore the way that they want to play the classes.
Musa says, will there be a new crafting tier?
So there will not be a new specialization tier. So there won't be another. What's the word I'm looking for, Matt? My brain. There is a new crafting tier, but we're not putting in a new
guild.
A new guild. There's no new guild tier this time. At least not at the outset of the release.
Schmooze asks, any updates on LI on the horizon?
So alongside the virtue issues that we know we have, the LIs are the next thing that have some difficulties, and there's a lot of friction with moving them along. So there are still discussions ongoing with that to see exactly what we can do to mitigate and potentially reduce some of the grind that's there.
Hirok says, can we get gear pieces tied to a trait panel for slotting? Having to swap gear through inventory is challenging.
No, we're not going to do that. That's not something that we wouldn't handle it that way. One of the requests that we do have in is to change the way that you can store gear on the character. I can't go into anything and say that we're promising to do this, because we're not promising to do this. There is an exploration right now to actually make it so that there are potentially multiple gear sets available on a character, but we have not really moved far beyond the ability to just kind of look into it and see what it's going to take from an engineering standpoint to build that kind of thing out.
Let's see. Il Mustang says, "What classes are in plans for reworking? Do you want to talk about what might be next, or if you have on the docket what might be next?"
I think it's too soon to talk about that. Nothing is like no major plans for the no major plans for the expansion, and we probably aren't going to talk about what we're planning on for next year. But I can give you a hint that I'm playing a champion from 0 to 160 right now. I see something about cosmetic carryalls. Cosmetic carryalls would fall under the wardrobe for the most part. Are there thoughts around ways to improve the wardrobe? Yes, but again, those are all things that really fall into a we need the time, resources, and the engineering to handle it.
Carryalls also
they come with their own problem.
Yeah, like with carryalls, anything that's been customized on the object goes away when you put it into a carryall. So, like, if you had dyed something and put it into a carryall, or you crafted something and it crit and you were able to change the name on it and have an inscription on it, that goes away when you would put it in a carryall. So there are benefits to carryalls, but there are also some drawbacks to it as well, and that's what keeps certain classes of items from being able to be put into carryalls.
Yes, and it. So to be clear, because Q for Quentin said the wardrobe is capped. Yes, we know. It's a lot easier for us to increase the cap on the wardrobe than it would be to come up with the full solution for creating more cosmetic, for creating a cosmetic carryall that answered all the problems that just were highlighted by Matt.
Yeah, that said, and this isn't specifically related to cosmetics and whatnot, but I think the collections system, especially with the introduction of baubles, has opened up basically kind of a template for us to think about ways that we can introduce other things in the future.
Don't overpromise.
That's why I said think about. That's why I said think about.
Yes, there's a spec. Yes, it has existed for a long time. It is definitely something that is there. It is definitely something that we have talked about, and we really wish we could address, because it is a very consistent agreement amongst the design team that being able to allow you to get everything inside of a collections panel would be a much better solution to a lot of these different issues that we have.
And Illadel asks, why are fireworks not a bauble? And that, like I had mentioned before, they're just like certain things that certain items do that just those items would need to be kind of refactored and remade effectively in order to make them work in the bauble system. So
yeah, there are some legacy items that just will not carry into the baubles. Like it's just not a possibility. Some baubles were easy to do. It's just that there are some that cannot be moved into the bauble collections because of the way that they were originally created, and it's an unfortunate truth, and that's why we said at the outset of introducing the bauble system that we would be going through and figuring out which ones could be moved in there over time.
So we got people excited about baubles in chat right now. That's
great. Like I'm excited about the bauble system. It's one of the little things that I kind of pushed for last year, and I'm happy that they've been well received.
And there are a few people asking, why aren't they account wide and whatnot? And I think there is. I wouldn't be shocked if there are opportunities in the future to make that. a
that's
thing?
that's one of the things that we'll probably be looking at, because they are there are there are solutions that we have mapped out that would alleviate a lot of the concerns when it comes to um, things that are account based or things that are character based, so on and so forth. Uh, the collections panel is, as Matt pointed out, one of those points that we have looked at and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if we could expand this?" And that's the thing that we keep looking at, and we would love to expand. Again, it is not an easy undertaking with the resources we have available to us, and so we have to be cautious about how much we discuss these things, because the likelihood that they see the light of day is only about a 5% at this point. Like, pretty much anything we talk about is a 5%. Like, that's one thing I think both Matt and I learned back when we were youngins in this industry. Saying anything and everything to players is that 5% chance of that ever happening. So it's something that we do want to continue to look into for the future, but it's also something that we can't guarantee will ever happen.
We've got a big project with a lot of ideas, and a lot of those ideas need to just wait their time.
Mm-hmm.
As disappointing as that can be, even for us as our designers, where we get something that we're so excited about, and we're like, oh, I can't do this right now, or we don't have the resources to do this right now, or now is just not the right time to do that. Like, we've
How many times?
well, I
How many times?
remember back when we were doing Before the Shadow, our producer asked if I wanted to build the estate system for it, and I had to tell him, like, no, not right now. We don't have the tools that we need for it, and we don't have the time for it. So we need to, like, I love the idea of the system, but we need to, like, wait for the right time and for the right support for it. And that's with a lot of things where we want to, like, figure out when is the right time for a lot of these things when we have the support for those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep,
Uh,
that is true.
so shall we do a couple more questions and then wrap things up?
Sure.
Since we were a little late
We
to
started
start
a little late.
because my new computer was not fully set up. Um, uh, Apuk says, "What about all the blocked roads? There's one south of Laketown, one in the middle of Mirkwood, one in Harad. Do you see them opening up?" I've talked about this a bunch in my casual stroll streams, where having those blocked ways into and out of regions pointing towards areas that we haven't introduced, while they're there, exist as a great way to show that the world is bigger than just the playable space. It's enticement. It drives interest. If it's something where, like, you look at the map and you see, you know, something that says to Harandor or Damarzag, you then kind of pause and you might find yourself, like, going online to a wiki or to the appendices to look up a little bit more information of that and learn a little bit more information about the world. And so having those things, those inaccessible gateways out of regions, just serves to show that the world is bigger than the individual regions that you're in. And I think it does give us opportunities to inspire ourselves as well, where it's like, if we find ourselves with time to do a fill in the gap region, or someone's working on a side project, they can look at those unopened doorways as inspiration for places to go and ways to connect the broader world.
That's never happened, Matt.
Not at all.
Not at
Ever.
all.
The Wildwood never happened.
Never.
The Undershire never happened. The Angle never
Never.
happened. The
These are
oh, I
not
can't I
things.
can't.
These are not things that have happened. No, you can't talk about that one. You can't talk about that one yet.
Um,
I answered the question from Druid's Fire about getting different war steeds. No, not right now. No.
all right. So I feel like that's I think we should probably wrap it up. Any parting teases or statements you'd like to make about the expansion pack? About Kingdoms
No,
of Harad?
other than like we're really looking forward to opening up the the Bullroarers and starting to have eyes on. Like, no, not really. Um, that's it's just something that we're really excited about. I mean, it's been a long year, it's been a hard year, but we're excited about where we're wrapping this up, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for people to be able to finish the story and to see how that subplot is working itself towards resolution too.
Yeah, I think for me the thing that I'm most excited about is I feel like when we build regions, we're often very much just like connecting one region to the next region to the next region in a linear way. And I think the way that we have access to at least three of the four regions, Idigal is kind of off on its own, and for right now, there's nothing other than Ansharu connecting to it. But Ansharu, Idigal, or Ansharu, Kijan, Adagim, they're all regions that I think connect really well to the existing regions. It feels like the flow into them makes sense, and I think that's something that like I'm just happy about as a world designer and a geography fan. So like having the geography feel like it makes sense to me is very satisfying. So
No, I mean it's exciting and it is beautiful. That's what I'm really most excited for, is for people to see it.
all right. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we'll wrap it up here. So thank you, everyone, for hanging out, asking your questions. Like I'd mentioned before, we are starting our weekly casual stroll streams starting next week. I'll be doing 5 of them over the course of the next 5 weeks. Next week is casual stroll through Adagim. That'll be our first preview of the regions, followed by Kijan, Ansharu, and Idigal. Did I say it? Adagame first, Kijan, Ansharu, and then Idigal.
That's how you're going through them, right?
Yeah. Um, so tune back in next Wednesday at my usual casual stroll time, and then every week after that for 4 more weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bring your questions, and hopefully the regions impress. So thank you, everyone. Also,
Thank you,
pre-order is live.
That is
So
true.
if you are interested in the pre-order, if you want to get yourself your camel, head on over to our website and get the pre-order going. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon.
See y'all.